Thank you all for coming. Always great to be in India. Been coming to your lovely country since 1992. So it's always a pleasure to be here. But I have to ask you, what's the magic number of the month? 3-digit number. What is your national sport? What's the magic number? What? More. 4-3-4, right? Historic win. Do I have to remember, and I've been practicing and I forgot the first name, Jaiswal's last name? Do you have to remember his name like I know Sachin Tendulkar since I can barely walk? Do you have to remember his name? What's the community saying? Remember the name? What's his first name? Jaiswal's last name, what's the first name? Yashasvi, yeah. Tried to cram it, didn't do. But okay, want to talk more about cricket or technology? Let's let these good folks come in. They missed my icebreaker at the beginning. As you can hear from my soft accent, I'm German. It's very hard for Germans to be funny. I'm trying, but it's very hard, so they missed my icebreaker. Nothing I can do about this. Oh, clicker is not clicking. Here we go. Oh, clicker is ahead. Let's go back. Thank you all for coming. What I want to talk about quickly is a framework which will help you to understand what's happening out there with technology and changes. What has really changed fundamentally in the last 15 months by now? Success strategies for you personally and for your enterprise, and then some recommendations. We always think like 5 years is a good time frame which we recommend everybody. So being 2024, think about where does your enterprise want to be 5 years from now? And for you personally, where will you be in 2029? Right, it's 5 years. Average lifespan of working is 40 years. 5 years out of that is a little more than 12.5% if you do the math correctly. So it's significant time. And my research is all based on enterprise acceleration. Companies, enterprises have to move faster, be more agile, be better than any time before. Right? And enterprise acceleration manifests itself in a framework which you see in the stock markets. 52% of the Fortune 500 from 2000s are done. I don't even talk about all these in detail. You see it's not just a US thing. You see this DAX as a German index. You see it in the UK. You see it in Japan. Think about this, Japan, which is generally seen as being a very slow-moving country, having issues with an aging population, slow, lots of government programs to revitalize the economy, right? 1 billion after another. 225, right? 210 of the 225 members of that index are no longer there. This does not mean they're out of business. This only means they didn't grow fast enough. They are not large enough to be still part of that index. Yeah. So they didn't accelerate, right? And the same thing, like in the S&P, the average number of companies joining 2013 was 10 years. 25 years before, the average time of a company joining was 75 years. You think about for a company to last 75 years, how many changes in management, ownership have to happen for that. So here's one slide. You can take pictures of that. That's the one which, in one slide I've been showing since a long time, explains everything that's happening, right? As a business, right, you have to get better every year. You have to return capital to shareholders. You have to keep employees happy. So you grow by 2-3%. Technology has been always less capable. It's always been a compromise. Wait for it, it's building, wait for it, I'll tell you when to take a picture. It was always a compromise, right? We still live the compromise today, our cell phone battery. Who has a cell phone battery which lasts long enough? We don't have that, right? It's a compromise. But then, somewhere in 2010, something broke through, right? The first thing you would see is big data, you see the cloud, and then of course we're going to talk about, but I'm not going to mention it yet. Am I 5 minutes in and haven't said the two-letter word yet? I haven't said it yet, right? So I'm trying to stay away from it. And then there's going to be an adoption point, which is happening now, where best practices are going to keep up to what technology can do, right? But this overtaking process, right? And you can think, analysts love to talk about phases. This is the legacy phase. We love this, right? I love to see a former colleague, the MD of SAP India, the head of the lab in Bangalore on stage, right? An SAP system, you save it to how much you would have it. Thousands of people could do that. Now you can't say size things anymore. It's infinite computing. So that's the legacy phase. We have an inflection point, which for some technology like the two-letter word, I'm not going to say, is happening right now, the inflection point. And then there's an opportunity phase. All this talk about digital transformation, digital acceleration, whatever, digital something is in this space, and then there's going to be catch-up. That's where your kids will go to college and they're going to learn how to use technologies, how to do best practices in the 21st century. So now we can take the picture. I'll get on the side. No more build. More phones are going up than down. Shall I jump in the frame? It comes at the end again, okay? But at the end of the day, and that's the good news, because we're people in the room, it's not about the technology. There's no servers, right? There's no cloud in this room. The clouds are outside. It's about the right mix of people and technology, right? Enterprise acceleration needs to happen. You need to push technology, but you need to keep your people along. If you push your technology too hard, you don't train your people, you lose your people. If your technology is too old and your people are not happy, they can't do their work, you lose your people. So it's the concert, right? It's the perfect mix of a drink of multiple different things to put in your drink. That's what you need to get right as a technology executive. So what has changed? Right? I mentioned this, I gave this away. We're in the era of infinite computing. Right now, if you look at Sam Altman, who's trying to raise trillions, billions, somewhere in the Middle East right now, we know that ultimately there's always a CPU, a GPU, a server behind it. Nothing is infinite, right? Maybe space, right? But for all practical purposes, for your enterprise to adopt technologies, you have to get rid of the finite world of sizing an SAP system or an Oracle system or whatever to something. It's infinite, right? For your practical purposes, don't ever worry to be limited by compute, by storage, by networking, right? For networking, we experience that all. If you want to do a video call, you can do this on your mobile device. 20 years ago, you would have been crazy. 10 years ago, it would have been bad. 5 years ago, it would have been okay, and now you take it for granted. Infinite connectivity. And of course, I'm going to say it for the first time, it is 11:30, 8 minutes. Not bad, right? 8 minutes, 2024, and I haven't said AI yet? Right. And of course, AI, right? And don't get fooled by AI. Yeah? There's a trap in AI, which is very, very common, and that is collectively in this room, we probably have gone to school and university for more than 1,000 years, right? And who we are trying to follow there is the famous scholar, right? Sorry, bad me, I should have put an Indian scholar up there. And they read documents, books, scriptures, right? They're processing these things. And that's what AI right now, generative AI, or specifically the transformer algorithm, does amazingly well. And we have a natural respect for something who knows a lot, who knows much more than we, which we all get taught: respect your teacher, respect your professor, and so on. So don't get fooled by generative AI knowing so much. There's no way that you can compete by this. But don't get fooled that it's correct because it looks so knowledgeable, right? This is why I call it the scholar trap. An answer from ChatGPT or whatever you want to call it can be right or wrong only because it's written in good English, and writing is something which we all struggle with, right? We learn writing from first day in school, and nobody's a perfect writer, definitely not me. If there's a perfect writer in here, I would like to get schooled by him or her. Love to do this. Don't get into the scholar trap. But there's still one big missing piece in AI. What is the missing piece in AI? I ask you guys. What's the one thing that's missing? Intuition, that's a good one. That's general AI. What else? What do you hear? Empathy, emotions, absolutely. It's a machine, it can't do that. But let's think a little harder about technology. What does your enterprise run on? Sorry? Data, exactly. And more specifically, documents are data too, right? But more specifically, you run on transactions, right? If it's important, there's a transaction typically in a relational database which is stored in your own company, right? And none of AI right now has access to transactional data. So if you think AI has been hyped and wild, it's been great for doing all the unstructured data. It's been great for all the use cases of the scholarly professors type of like expert system and so on. It's been great for any time where enterprises create documents like in job descriptions, no question about it. It doesn't know what did you buy today or yesterday or for the whole time. Now, tons of companies are working very, very hard to get that solved, but keep that in mind, and that is the strategic inflection moment. Remember the slide before? When the artificial intelligence can take care and acknowledge and work smoothly, like with the documents, with the transactional data. Then all hell, that I'm trying to show here, will break loose. And then the transformation will be faster. But if today you use generative AI or not, it's not going to get you out of business. If your competitor uses generative AI, which can take care of the transactions and the documents, it might put you out of business very quickly. So this is the thing you have to monitor, right? There's 3 technologies to get transactions in there. Last year in summer, everybody was desperate. People were verbalizing their transactional database. Holger bought from my colleague Sachin 3 cases of beer in August 2022. Yeah, that's text. I can generate text. The transformer mode works great on text. That works fine. It's a very brutish method. Yeah? The next one was you insert code into the query, right? When someone says, how much did Holger buy from Sachin, it will look at the quote, it will generate code in the transactional database and see if that's been done. And the third one, which has been mostly done by the database vendors, is creating AI vectors. So keep tabs on these technologies. Make sure your enterprise is aware of these, because the really big bang will come when transactions are part of that. Hallucination. Yeah. We don't forget about computer software for a moment. As biology, as doctors, we don't know how hallucination works. How can we call when a machine which works on ones and zeros hallucinates? It definitely isn't doing this, because whoever said it doesn't have empathy and so on, it definitely can't do these things either. So hallucination doesn't make any sense. Hallucination can be bad AI, it can be bad data, it can be a wrong algorithm, right? But hallucination, we have this tendency, if we don't understand something, we want to anthropologize it. We want to make it like a human thing because we can deal with humans, right? So let's make the technology human, and then we can deal with it. AI will not, unless we figure out how hallucination works in humans. Then you can simulate hallucination with computers, then it can still hallucinate. But the hallucination conversation is something where people are afraid of technology and don't want to acknowledge that they want to deal with it potentially. So that's my rubber on hallucination. If you disagree with me, love to discuss with you later. So at the end of the day, it's all about your data. The number one thing you should do when you go back is figure out what is the data strategy in your enterprise. How do you bring your structured and unstructured data together? And that's today the technology is called, big data is a bad word, failed, whatever, changed. The technology buzzword used today is the lake house. Yeah, Lakehouse has arrived in India. Lakehouse, the structure of data warehouse and data lake, bring all your data together because it's the foundation of the AI. That's where you bring a transactional and document data together to understand AI better. And of course, the algorithm. What is the right algorithm? We don't know. Right? There's a big competition of very smart people trying to figure out what the right algorithm is. The good news is, any cloud vendor will have that algorithm right away for you available. Yep. So you don't have to worry so much about the algorithms. So, what's going to happen to the pyramid, right? The name to the session, right? The pyramid will not disappear, but it may not be a pyramid anymore. You've seen these videos, I didn't have time to plug it in, of the fish swarms, which change shape and move, right? That's much more going to be the agile organization of the 21st century in the second half of the 2020s, right? It's not going to be a classic hierarchy. The hierarchy will thin in the middle. Middle management jobs will more likely disappear. It will be much more up and downward moving. Downward, we don't want to talk about this. Upward, because if you want to have someone with 1 year generative AI experience and hire them, do you know how many people exist? Pretty much no one, right? 2-3 months of generative AI experience is a lot of time. Yeah, you would not hire a software engineer for a senior position without 10 years of experience. For generative AI, 2 or 3 months is a lot of experience. Yeah, so there's a permutation of people all of a sudden being senior because they bet on the new technology and use it earlier. But in general, technology has flattened through the course of history the pyramid. But information is no longer the reason that somebody is more high up in a company in many cases, if you have your proper internet and share your communication and employee communication. So what is happening, of course, and we forget about this because no longer a post-COVID, post-pandemic conversation, is the great reassessment, right? Not the great resignation, I don't like this. The reassessment of people, how they want to work, when they want to work, where they want to work is happening still. Yeah, you see the whole debate about going back to work, and that has an effect on the pyramid, obviously. right? If people don't want to work anymore 48 hours in office, you will not be able to build the classic pyramid in the office. No question about that. So what are the success strategies? What can you do to be successful in 2024 in this part, right? So there's something which you have to understand, and I'm using an example from the past because I'm just building the one for the current part. You have to understand what is the persona, the characteristics, the capabilities, the power, the patience, the agility of your enterprise. I'm a big believer in organizational DNA. Enterprises have a persona, do something. I'll give you an example for that, right? If you think back in the pandemic, right, they were the super busy, right? The hospitals, the healthcare guys, right? Couldn't be faster enough. I'm using the example because we're all familiar with this, right? And then there were the stutterers, the ones who were on and off. Open your business, close your business. Open it with new regulation, close it again. They were on, off, on, off. And then, no longer the case necessarily, like the airlines, they were the sideline ones, right? These are familiar enterprise persona, which you understand, because we all luckily made it through COVID, right? What are the personas of the 21st century now, post-COVID, in an AI world? What are the fast-moving companies, and why, in which area? What are the on and off, medium of the pack, and what will be the not-so-successful industries or the not-so-successful moving parts? You can look at the regulation, right? If you're in the first world, in North America, in Western Europe, if you're an energy company, an oil company, you're going to get regulated, right? You're not in a good spot, as an example. If you're an AI startup, you get money thrown after you, right? But you're super busy on the left side. Try to understand your enterprise persona. And the enterprise persona, struggling with the clipper, determines your acceleration mode. Right? Because you cannot move because AI has arrived, move as fast as you can. You might have moved as fast as you can, but it might be too fast for your people, right? So getting into understand your persona and moving things fast enough as you can is important. That does not mean that you want to run at maximum breakneck speed all the time, but you want to make your organization fitter, that you can run faster if you have to. Yeah. So that means specifically, as an example, you should have a lakehouse strategy today, because you know you'll use your data for your AI. If you don't have your data in one place, it's going to be harder for your AI to work. If your competitor puts them in one place, he's going to be faster, she's going to be faster, whatever, than you are, right? So prepare for better acceleration, right? And we've moved 7 years. If you look at economic history, 7 years have been the cycles of economies, ups and downs, more or less, been proven, and now we're in 7-day cycle, right? Kind of like affected from the pandemic, open, close, and so on, so many days. Everything has to be significantly faster. You have to trim your enterprise speed to be better and faster to react to these things. What does it mean for you in charge of IT, part of your business, right? What does it mean specifically for you, right? Here's a number of recommendations. You need to embrace technology, right? I speak a lot to HR professionals. Any HR professionals in the room here? Don't want to do them wrong? A few of them, right? HR professionals are afraid of technology. You're the only exceptions, right? You're the only exceptions, right? Exceptions confirm the rule, right? So, but they've been conditioned to that. It's not the fault of the HR professional, because HR is such an old automated function, not old for the people, but from the tradition. After finance, enterprise automated HR, and then IT was super technical, and this is why there's HR IT. And your trusted technologist will take care of all the technology questions for you. So why do you have to look into them, right? Do you have HR IT? Yeah? Yeah, so it's the problem, part of the problem, right? Because you have someone who takes care of that, you delegate that. You cannot delegate technology understanding. You don't have to become an expert, but you need to understand what is happening there. And then do the translation about what the technology can do, remember the curves, how you can close the gap of your business best practice, how you can change the business best practice, because you're the expert of the business best practice of your enterprise. You need to find ways to personally accelerate, right? How can you not be the same person you were 5 years ago? What do you do for your education? And congratulations, you came here, right? What do you do for networking, right? You should learn, network here. What do you do to understand what is your goal in 5 years? Way too many professionals work hard, think in quarters, think in years, think in performance reviews of themselves, of their teams, and then 20 years are gone, and half of your productive work life is probably spent. Think what you want to do next year and then 5 years from now. Learning, right? Learning is the key part which keeps companies together, right? I have a report on this, the social compact, John Locke, the philosophers, right? What keeps companies, what keeps structures, what keeps groups together, right? Common values, sympathy, empathy, if you think of a family. For a company, it's the ability and the speed of learning. If I, as a leader, know I can train my people to anything because they're smart enough, I have the infrastructure, the systems for that, I'm in a good shape. If I, as an employee, know my company has my back, what I do today is not what I'm going to do in 5 years from now because the technology will have changed, the skills will have changed, I might be front-facing, internal-facing, I will get the training that I need. That makes me loyal to that company, and that makes the manager loyal to the employees. So learning is the new social compact. Workforce management agility, no-brainer. You have to be able to scale up, scale down, right? As you need. The gig economy plays a huge role there. The learning opportunity, I mentioned that. The talent mobility, right? Internal to global. It's harder to hire people from the outside than find them internally. Internal people think they're surpassed if they're not being thought. Very important part. All the HR vendor of talent marketplaces. If you don't have a talent marketplace, opportunity marketplace, that's equally as important as getting to the lake house. The gig economy readiness plays a huge role, right? It's harder, people don't want to be traditional employees. It's harder to get them on board. And then, of course, you have to be able to, and that's the last build. Take your phones up. Perfect, love this. You have to be faster in your talent acquisition strategy. Look at how long it took you to hire someone 5 years ago, if even the data 10 years ago and today. And then you have to plan for bringing people faster on board and get them faster productive in 2025, 2026. So embrace technology. I went for these, your personal acceleration, right? This is what I mentioned. People to enterprise keep me relevant. Right? I want to be knowing that my employer has my back. I'm going to be a relevant asset in the company because you will train me, and stay eager and curious, right? Be ready to learn, right? Employees will say, don't send me to training anymore. I don't want to learn anything. I know everything for the next 10 years. Probably not a good employee depending on the job where you're on. Workforce management agility. Sorry, I forgot I had the detailed slides here, but you see some detailed slides on that. Now, what are the recommendations, right? The basic understanding. Anybody knows this lighthouse? Famous lighthouse in front of the Normandy in France, and the waves break like this, you can literally stand there without getting wet. Yeah, that's the situation I would like you to be in if you understand the presentation here and the principles on that. But fundamentally it means the speed of your company, of your enterprise, needs to be faster than that of your markets. Yeah, because it's not, you're in not such a good position for that. Again, it does not mean that you have to push the gas pedal the whole time. There's something like organizational exhaustion, right? You have to figure out when is it time to slow down, when is it time to go faster. Yeah, but you have to have the ability in your engine of your enterprise to be faster than your markets. For you personally, it means that your speed must be faster than that of your peers. Right? It doesn't mean that you stop sleeping and become an AI expert and become a prompt engineer, right? But it means that the ability, the understanding, and you can look left and right. It's nice to see to network and learn from each other, right? But there's one labor pool, right? There's one talent pool, right? What do you have on top of the person? What can you do better than the person left and right of you? So people leader empowerment, this is one of the third thing which I would put close to your heart. It's been proven all over. The first and second level of management in enterprise is being bombarded with more and more things to do, but has to make sure that the scope, the idea of your enterprise, the value creation, the revenue comes in. Yeah? Middle management is getting squeezed. If you find ways to empower your middle management to do the right thing for their teams, always in light of the business purpose why they have a team, because they have to achieve some revenue, some business goal, manufacture something, whatever it is, customer service calls, you will do better. Empowering the people leaders, the first and second level, is not a secret, but it's been treated like a secret for enterprise success and for enterprise acceleration. So the 9 drivers, we don't have time, there's a separate keynote, but I'm just going to uncover them for you. The middle part is the HR part. You need to have a lean recruiting part. You need to have a talent depth chart. What's talent depth chart? The talent depth chart is, which hopefully the HR vendors will have soon, to know who is the best person on the job in my enterprise. who is the best person for this job outside of my enterprise? Do I, as a people leader, think, I will go through the difficulties of letting that person go and find the better person, but I need to see how much better is that person? Who is the best contractor for that job? Because I might not want to have a mainframe administrator anymore for all their career and lifetime. Yeah? So talent depth chart, knowing who's the best person in the job inside of your company is the first thing. This is why your recommendation for the talent marketplace. Hopefully with outside in combination with whatever talent acquisition recruiting system, who's the best person for that job? I can see the gap. That triggers the learning importance in your company, right? I don't want to let people go. I need to train them up because the outside is more talented. You see that right away. And you have to have the ability, if you need the flexibility in the hours, or if you can only find the talent. Think of the situation. This is my employee on the job. This is the person I could get outside. This is the gig worker. Who are you going to find? Who are you going to hire? Right? You're going to level up the employee to the external side. Can you get them to the gig worker? Maybe not. Maybe it's time to make that position the gig worker position. Or talk to the gig worker if he wants to become a permanent employee. And transboarding, you can figure out what that means, right? Transfer and onboarding. The speed of your company to move people in different positions and bring them up to speed and make them productive, that they know where the furniture is critical to practice enterprise acceleration. Right? So same thing, what are the 9 drivers for the future of work? Looking at the middle section, transboarding I just talked about, talent marketplace I talked about, and skills are the way to understand what is needed to get something going, to get something done, right? So understanding what are the skills which are crucial for your enterprise, which you need to put into your learning systems, how you modernize your learning systems is going to be interesting. And by the way, AI is going to change learning forever. Yeah, if you see the generative AI capabilities that just came out with Sora and the other models which can do movie-like things, the time that you look at everybody at the same sexual harassment, anti-bribery training, whatever, despite you knowing it's not the case, it will be tuned to what you do, right? And it's possible to do for what you do. Good. People centricity, it's all about people. Yeah, don't forget people centricity as a 4th recommendation. What are the overall recommendation? Enterprise acceleration is real. I hope you understand that. You saw that. I showed you the stock markets. Is there anybody in the room whose business is slowing down? I ask this question all over the world in keynotes and sessions like this. I would love to know where there's a business that is slowing down. Even government, right? It was great to listen to the IT manager. Even government is going faster, right? There is nothing which is moving slower and slowing down. It is real. Change management is super, super critical. Your change management capabilities are really what's going to enable enterprise acceleration. You can't avoid that. But in the end, and that's good news because we are all people with a heartbeat and a brain and feelings and emotion, it's all about people. Good. Remember, speed of your enterprise needs to be fast in the markets. This is the main slide to understand what's going on, right? Try to understand what's coming. Something's going to come after AI, I can promise you. It's not going to be the end. What is the gap between your business best practices? How can you stretch the elastic here and reduce the gap between the two? That's the important thing. All right, we have time for Q&A. If you want, join me if you like this at our conference every year in Half Moon Bay, north of San Francisco. Any questions from your side?
Thank you, Holger, for this insightful session. Please feel free to have your questions answered by Holger. You can pass on the mic to the audience if they have any questions.
Hi, my name is Apurv. I wanted to ask you, you spoke about, the topic is interesting, thank you. You spoke about workforce management agility, and we see that the middle management is not going to be there. How do you foresee growth in such a scenario? When you see that growth usually happens in a pyramid level for people, if it's going to be top and the bottom, how do you anticipate growth for future?
Yeah, I didn't have the slide in here. I don't think growth is going to be the classic hierarchical career growth, where you go from junior analyst to senior to very senior analyst to junior manager to whatever, right? What is interesting in digital transformation already 10 plus years ago, 15 years ago, the people who were really the successful people in enterprise were the ones that were master in all trades, jack in all trades, master in none, who had careers which were zigzagging in the enterprise, from finance into HR, into manufacturing, into sales. Why was that the case? Because those were people who could be called into the boardroom with the consultants or by their own ideas and could right away say, that's a stupid idea. It's not going to work because of this and this and this. Or that's an idea which could work, but here's the challenge. Because the enterprise, unfortunately, because of Taylor, right, functional organization, does not take care of the multiple aspect understanding of how the living being of an enterprise needs to grow, right? So there needs to be motivation for the growth path, not to be the linear one in one function, but to motivate people to jump across the different functions to understand the enterprise better. Yeah. And overall workforce management needs to be more agile, right? The classic workforce management, if you work in shifts or availability, I need to see, am I needed? How much money I'm going to make? I must be able to trade a shift. And these things that are typically becoming bread and butter right now of the workforce management vendors. Yeah. Good question. Other questions? Wow, everybody's hungry. Please.
Maybe I'll be brave enough. Like you see high frequency computing, and now we talk about autonomous cars.
Yeah.
Do you see at some point it will become autonomous enterprise, given what you're talking about, where we're starting from?
Yeah, I mean, we all have to acknowledge that conceptually that's possible. It might be at some point. The big question is when. And we're automating these functions already, right? If you think about in the 1920s, 30s, there was vast pools of people only typing. Yeah, if you watch the NASA movie, people were hired as calculators, right? Nobody's being hired for that anymore, right? So it has changed already to that point where automation is gradually taking that away. The fully self-autonomous enterprise is knocking around the park, right? We do the progress, but like I said before, we have the document side, you miss the transactional side. It's going to happen in the next 1 or 2 years, I'm pretty sure, and that will only allow to run an autonomous enterprise. I think for a long time it will be human supervised. It should be, personally, I think it should be human supervised, but we know how humans are. We're lazy, right? If anybody was eager to get up this morning? It's nasscom, I'm going to jump into Mumbai traffic. I'm so much looking forward to sit here sweating, waiting for my food, right? No, just kidding, right? Nobody, we're lazy by nature, right? Energy conservation is what we need to do, right? So that will mean that the human supervision of the autonomous enterprise, at some point you say, yeah, it's going to work. I'm not going to worry about this, right? It's going to work. And then Hollywood has already figured out what will go wrong, right? So hopefully we don't live for that anymore.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Great question. Other questions? Please, gentleman in the back. Oh, sorry, gentleman here. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. It's kind of extension to what Apur asked. It's about the middle management kind of getting rid of, okay, in near future. So how do you see they getting survived, okay, in the future? Because you mentioned that 1 year experience in Gen AI or AI can definitely replace multiple of the middle managers. So what would you suggest, apart from the upskilling aspect, apart from the agility aspect, which you mentioned that a person can move around different domains?
Yeah.
What else would you suggest for that middle management to survive?
Middle management will survive, I think. The question is how many middle managers do you need in a classic office setting? But the general rule is the empowerment of the middle management, right? Headquarter functions, finance, HR are there to serve and help the middle manager make the value creation of their team happen. Make them hit their numbers. The question has to be, how can I serve you instead of giving you one more spreadsheet, one more thing to figure out, to fill out every week or every time to help somebody in ivory tower headquarter, right? So reduction of bureaucracy to enable middle management, empowering middle management, showcasing successful middle management behavior to other middle managers. Many companies don't even bring their middle managers together, right, in any kind of part. Are all very successful strategies if you adopt them, which will pay off for you very, very quickly.
Thanks.
Sure. Please.
Can you pass on the mic at the back?
Yep.
Over there. Sure. Go ahead. That's fine.
Quick question. You see that we have already not just flattened the pyramid, but there is also a flattening of the world itself, right?
Yep.
We have moved from offshoring, nearshoring. Now it is near timing,
Yep.
right? It's only hours of overlap.
Right.
At what point do you see taxation and legislation and regulation catching up with this trend? Because there is still a major hurdle there.
Right. It's always behind, right? And the good thing is that it's behind, because in order to do legislation, you have to understand how technology works to a certain point. And the challenge of regulation is always the unintended side effects of legislation, which you will always have. It's not available with regulation legislation. There will always unintended parts. The question is, can the legislative body react fast enough to take those unintended things away again, which is a big, big challenge, right? But an example, right, for the first time, the EU, where I'm originally from, was faster in legislating AI than North America, which is the US, right, which is very, very rare, right? So legislation has to be faster. We have to rethink how legislative processes work. Look at the UK. The UK is a massive legislative failure in the sense that for the first time you have a nearshore 60 million people opportunity which could undo all bad regulation which the EU has done, all the unintended side effects. Not I'm saying that all is bad, right? There might be some good one too, but undo that, and the UK Parliament would have to pass 2 new laws every day, which is a breakneck, unheard of speed, right? It has to work in a different way, right? For legislation, regulation to be right and help with intended parts, it has to be much, much faster. We need not enterprise acceleration, we need legislation and regulation acceleration. Yeah. Great question. Please.
Given that we are in a nasscom conference and services is a big part of Indian IT industry.
Of course.
I believe generative AI can really generate a lot of code. So in that sense, I think it's going to have much sooner and much larger impact on the engineering pool that we have, much more than engineering management. What's your opinion about the future of how these technologies are going to impact in the near term, in the next 4 or 5 years? How is it going to impact the Indian IT services industry?
Great question. I think the impact will be on the individual, on taking drudgery, repetitive tasks out of their life, right? The thing where I would go to a customer, say, and work for a week, and for 2 days it would be routine things where I would recycle things, redo things. That part will be gone, right? It will be more higher level, more challenging, more harder things to do, right? Which is a great thing for the individual. It will not be easy because, like I said before, we like our routines, right? We like our coffee, our tea in a certain way. We get up in a certain way. We shave in a certain way, whatever. Put perfume in a certain way. And that's going to be the biggest challenge, right? That people cannot be at their comfort zone of the normal automation of things. But I hope, I'm positive, I believe in people, that they see, oh, my job got more interesting. It was more challenging, but got more interesting. And I don't have to do routine, drudgery, repetitive tasks anymore.
Any predictions you would like to make about the revenue growth of the industry as a whole?
The revenue growth will be there. I think it will be in the low double digits, low teenage numbers. Yeah.
Thank you.
For the enterprise who don't hold on to the old work, right? Yeah. Think about, you will be able to see service company working for the different enterprise persona, right? If you were specialized on the aviation industry during the pandemic and you couldn't move to other industries, you were massively affected, and you're still being affected. Yeah. Great question. Please.
The AI revolution results in a new concept of collective intelligence, where you work alongside with the digital workers, right? So while this creates the interruption in flattening the pyramid, does it also create a new pyramid or some of the obstacles you would see with the collective intelligence, because the human workers need to work alongside the digital workers? Do you think it would create a different pyramid, or is it a complete flattening of the pyramid? It need not be a pyramid, but what I see in my experience, it is actually creating some obstacles in the overall the structure with which you try to make the human workers work alongside with the digital workers, right? Because it requires a different mindset for the humans to work alongside with the digital workers. Any insights around it?
Yeah, so I think if you think in structure, you probably have lost already, right? You have to think in projects, in peaks, in activities, right? Which motivate people to be part of, they strive want to be part of, that the enterprise needs. And the classic positioning system that you have an HR system with budgeting once a year, that's too slow. It's not really affecting that. And it will change the workplace that you work with an AI assistant, right? Or that AI generates a lot of work, right? And you see how hard it is. Look at Microsoft, right? Who was close enough to generating code, right? The Visual Studio, which is the coding environment, is still optimized to start with line 1. It should have become, with Microsoft thinking at the wheel, it has to become an editing tool. Yeah, because you're editing things, right? Your junior journalist wrote something and the senior editor is making the mistakes, figuring out what is right. And the same thing is happening in coding. You're becoming an editor instead of a code writer, right? Which is better for the individual. It's a hard change, but you have to have the right tooling for that. But think in projects, not think in structure.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. How are we doing on time?
Sure, any other questions?
More than happy to address questions later. Hit me up anytime.
Sure.
Yep.
Thank you, Holger. Thank you for the brilliant session.
For more content on tech and leadership, subscribe to NASSCOM YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.